right, as you know, here on the platform, we value the ideal of free speech. But you will also know that in this country, it has been under pretty constant attack. And people who want to talk about issues that involve, well, I guess are seen as political. People who want to discuss some ideas like transgender, sex education in schools, the environment, the place of the Treaty of Waitangi, and a raft of other issues, often find it very, very difficult to hire or venues that will allow them to have meetings to discuss difficult issues. This goes all the way back to the Southern Molyneux visit to this country and to a Speak Up for Women events at Massey University. And Massey is probably the prime example of an institution which has used every means necessary to block people it doesn't agree with from exercising their freedom of speech. And I think the most often used excuse now is you couldn't do that in a public place or at our venue because other people will turn up and create a disturbance. It is called in general terms the thug's veto. We will cause, and Albert Park, a perfect example of the attempted exercise of the thug's veto, which due to the inaction of our police was somewhat successful. So how do we get around that? How do we stop venues using the thug's veto excuse, and how do we stop the thugs using their veto to stop free speech, you know, the vital component in a democracy of free speech? Well, the Free Speech Union, they have come up with a plan, and their spokesperson, Jonathan Ayling, joins us now. Jonathan, nice to talk to you again, mate.
Good morning, Sean.
You think the answer is, and I know it's slightly outside, if you like, the philosophy of the Free Speech Union, you think there needs to be a regulation or a law to stop protesters and counter-protesters shutting people down?
Well, we're announcing today and releasing legislation that has been drafted by a team of lawyers and a former judge here at the Free Speech Union that puts a positive duty on publicly owned venues to protect freedom of speech. So, fantastic intro. You've outlined it perfectly there. That's exactly the case. Where in cases in Taupo Council shutting down Julian Batchelor, Auckland City Council shutting down Stephen Molyneux and Lawrence Southern, Palmerston North City Council shutting down Speak Up for Women. In these cases, there wasn't actually the respect and the commitment to free speech that our publicly owned venues really needs to have. And so what this does is just one part of the solution in saying, actually, there is a positive duty that exists that you are required to prioritize free speech over other duties where health and safety concerns at the moment might be trumping this freedom. And that's because we're seeing health and safety law weaponized to silence perspectives that...
That's certainly what happened to Speak Up for Women at Massey University. They hauled in Labour Party lawyer Linda Clark to come up with a completely BS excuse about staff safety at Massey to withdraw the use of that venue. I am wondering, though, Jonathan, if there is going to be counter-protest that threatens members of the public or people attending meetings, how do you balance that? And should councils or local bodies or government entities, don't they lay themselves open to a liability if their venues become venues for violence and confrontation?
It's a fair question, Sean, but not in the slightest. And as we've released this legislation, we've received cross-party support from the Shadow Attorney General, Chris Pink, the New Zealand First Party, and David Seymour. So if the change of government that looks like is on the cards is going to occur come next week, this is a piece of legislation that we have already got support for and is coming down the pipe.
Okay, it's proposed legislation, Jonathan. It'll have to go through the proper parliamentary process and a select committee and everything else, right?
Of course, yep. And let me tell you what the response needs to be if council venues are being threatened. The police need to do their jobs just unlike any other situation where someone is acting belligerently or threateningly, in no other circumstance do we say, oh, well, you were selling tobacco, you were selling cigarettes, but, someone's threatening you now, so maybe you should stop doing that. Actually, we say, put in place security, get the police there, stop these crooks. And it needs to be exactly the same place in the marketplace of ideas. If people are coming and trying to shut down open debate, if they are silencing others' opinions and stopping them from engaging in their marketplace, the police need to do their jobs. And so this is where I think it's interesting that it's a fair question you raise, Sean. It's one we've come across a bit, but it doesn't seem that complex to us. If people are threatening to act in an unlegal manner, the solution is not to stop those who are acting in a legal manner. It is to get those who are responsible to uphold law and order, to ensure that there are consequences for those who will try and threaten others. And so we think that the cross-party support that we have here, despite Ben's comments earlier around the salty interactions between Seymour and Peters, this is a rare moment of bipartisanship across
All right.
those.
Have you put this proposed legislation? What do you call it, by the way? Does it have a catchy title?
It was drafted by a former judge. I'm not sure how catchy it is, but it is the Protection of the Freedom of Expression Bill.
Yeah, we'll work on that. Potphobe. All right. Have you shown it and sought the support of other parties, Labour and the Greens?
Absolutely, we have. Of course, we work across Parliament and are willing to work with any parties who will work to defend free speech. Probably won't surprise you that Te Pāti Māori wasn't interested in coming back to us, and the Greens and Labour didn't commit on this legislation at all.
Well, what do you mean didn't commit? Did they have any comment?
Essentially, it was no comment. This sort of we're busy during the election type thing. So that's disappointing. And I can't help but wonder if this is actually part of the issues that some Kiwis really care about at the moment.